last 10 years, because we've known each other basically 15 years now, but the
Yeah,
last 10 years have
that's
been
insane.
nothing. Yeah, it's beautiful. The
Yeah.
last 10 years have been nothing but like outside of a spiritual kind of self-search. Another part of my journey has been trying to learn my craft, as I
And
as
what you know
people
what?
can call it.
We're gonna start it from there because now we're gonna start it because that's a beautiful opening, right? And I'm gonna use that, you know what I'm saying, to dive into more that you said in the last 10, 15 years. It's you developing your craft and learning more about yourself and
Yeah.
growing. And what I usually ask all I guess, you know, what you're hitting on right now is who are you, you know?
um, my name is, as I told you, what was it, like 12, 11 years ago, is
Yeah.
Isaac A, on on a general sense. But
Yeah.
at the moment, most people either know me as Isaac or Universal Mindfuck. For people
Yeah.
who've known me more than a couple of years,
Yeah.
a lot of people just say I, but
Yeah.
Isaac for sure.
Nice. And then like so to keep diving into like how in the 15, 10 years like you've been on this, I guess what motivated that? Like this I from the time that I always met you, I
Yeah,
always like admired you and was inspired by you.
appreciate that.
I didn't know so much about you, but what I respected off the back was that you was different. And
Yeah,
different is by the way
thank
you
you.
dressed, the way you spoke, like you wasn't like yeah, you have friends, but you wasn't following. Like, yeah, we could go hang
Yes,
out, but then like, you know what? I'm gonna do my own thing too after that. Like you
yes,
always was this one man band. And you always
yes.
heard you always heard
Thank you,
people
thank
and you could rock with them, but don't get too comfortable with me rocking with you because I'm gonna be on my other shit too. And no offense.
you. Yes,
Like unapologetic, you know what I'm saying? That type of way. And
you
and I was like,
truly,
yo,
truly got it.
I was like, yo, I fuck with that. Like that was something new for me meeting you in college or like automatically just being around you and like I saw that. So, you know, what sparked that whole motivation of like this spiritual growth, this creative growth of like you trying to create something that's yours and before we go into the you know your brand, but
Hmm.
just being different. What sparked
Yeah,
that?
the basis, the background in a way. So
Yeah.
we met, me and you specifically. We could be the three of us and your
Yeah.
partner, myself and you, who's not here at the moment, but is
Yeah.
here in spirit.
Hmm.
But we met when we were freshmen in college.
Hmm.
So I was literally in a pornographic sense, I was barely 18. I had, and my birthday is August 25th.
Mm.
So when it comes to college, college starts literally August 20th, 25th, 30th,
Yeah.
whatever the case is. So I remember I was 17 years old when I graduated high school. I've always been this kind of fashion driven person where even as a child, I wasn't necessarily I was a child. I
Yeah.
wasn't driven by the clothes I wore, but I have the type of parent in my mother and my father, because obviously both were paying
Mm.
for it. But my mother especially, like she would be the type of person that she would be like, okay, let's go shopping for
Mm.
you. And I would be like, okay, but I have clothes that fit me. Like in my mind at least. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't need clothes. And I remember constantly, it wouldn't be like a beginning of the school year type of thing with my mother. Like I remember as poor as we could be, as many times as it had to be on layaway, my mother always made sure that I had, you know, something to be looked at in the right light.
Right.
She didn't want, in my mind, at least in hindsight, I don't think she wanted her child to be seen as less than. So
Right.
she always made sure I had at least a great appearance in my mind. So I've always been same face, but I've always also been kind of the same demeanor in my dressing. And it's kind of the reason why I am the way I am now. Like I
Yeah.
remember my mother buying me, green pair of Paco jeans,
Yeah, I remember
and
Paco.
exactly. And I would wear the green ones with a black and green pair of Griffies and a black and white T-shirt. And
Mm.
that outfit was different than any child. And that's kind of something that may have been typical to our generation and the time that we grew up in, because that's what fashion was in a way. However,
Right.
not everybody was obviously doing it and wearing it. And that's kind of one of the small things that even, indirectly my mother instilled in me,
Right.
without ever realizing it. Like, hey, you should, she definitely instilled the fact that I should always iron my clothes before I leave my home. She said, God forbid you get hit by a car. First of all, you don't want to get, you don't want to be an iron, you don't want to be, excuse me, a wrinkled individual when that thing happens. So when
Yeah,
they
my
find
mom's
you,
the
you're going to
same
be,
way.
to the point that, bro, I have friends that when I met them as like a teenager, a kid, and way before I did fashion too, their nickname for me, because I'm not in the street and I don't got street nicknames, which is
Yeah.
usually where you get your nickname. My nickname was Planchao, which is in
Yeah.
English, to those non-speaking in Spanish, it means the ironed one, basically. Like, I would never leave my house without ironing my t-shirt, my pants. And they would make fun of me and say, damn, bro, you must iron like your wife beater and your boxers. Like, you go that
It's so
hard,
funny how he
but
finds
they
anything to
respect,
make fun of
but
you. Yeah.
they respected it,
Yeah.
and they always told me that. It wasn't a thing of them teasing me, because these are a group of men that I met through my brothers. So they wanted to let me know, hey, you a little nigga, but we don't see you as a little kid. Excuse my
Yeah.
language. Like, we don't
No,
see
you
you
could
as a
curse,
little.
Dad. Be yourself.
I know, but I'm trying to cut the N word out of my vocabulary on
Okay,
it.
I feel you. I feel you.
So they told me, they let it be known, like, hey, you a little kid, but we don't see you as this little kid. Like, we respect what we see in you from this age, and not just because of the fact that we're friends with your brother. And to the point that I became business partners later on in life with one of these people. So that all became intertwined with a large amount of inspiration in seeing, these big brands from Ralph Lauren, who's from the South Bronx, to Tommy Hilfiger, who, obviously I'm naming white individuals, but these are all people who basically have made it from quote unquote nothing to something. Now you look at gentlemen like Oscar de la Renta and fashion designers that are, now Spanish. And now you look at gentlemen like Gianni Versace, who are doing just mentally, creatively different things. And those are the things that I really truly grew up on. Not necessarily I wore Versace, but I had an uncle who owned the cleaners, could afford, and me and my mother would go to the Versace mansion and be able to purchase these shirts for him. They weren't the loud shirts, they were the classy shirts, but I still was exposed to these things. And I had, like I said, I had a friend who later became a business partner, and the moment I was about to graduate high school, I saw him create his first brand, and I was like, wow, like a true peer, somebody I've seen for the last few years in my direct vision, has started something to then turn it into the what I call elevation in a way, where it's like, you don't start at the top, obviously. People like to start companies and call themselves CEOs, not knowing that their company isn't incorporated. And without incorporation, you shouldn't be calling an LLC, especially not a single proprietorship, basically, or I'm doing business as Joe Smo. I can't call myself a CEO, because a CEO is, I don't have to explain it, but
No.
anyway.
No, it's good for information for me.
But yeah, anyways, so when I saw that inspiration in a direct level, I felt it, and I didn't use it in the instance, and I left the college and I went to school. We met freshman year. You were dorm mates with an ex girl, and every time I would go see her, you would be either playing guitar or playing music, had your door open. And as tall as an individual as you are, with your long hair at the time, you were dating a certain girlfriend at the time too. Like,
Yeah.
all these things that somebody might think to be kind of standoffish about. There was nothing standoffish about you, I felt like. So it definitely was one of the reasons why we kind of approached each other in that whole way at some point. And we've, at the very beginning, I remember us not even being the greatest of friends in terms of like, hey, I'm going to be in your room every day. But just the reconnection, especially, like, made us understand, like, the mental connection that we could share, a spiritual level especially. But when I started school, I was still in that realm of trying to understand both myself, what I wanted to do in my future, who I wanted to be as an adult. I had, like I said, I was barely 18. So
Yeah.
when it comes to being an adult, I had no understanding. I grew up in a household with a mother and father, but you know,
Yeah.
it wasn't easy as
Yeah.
most households can be.
When did you I guess create, because you was barely 18 in
Yeah, so
college, and I just felt like, I know you didn't start it right away. I just felt
mhm.
like one day, like, we reconnected and was like, "Yo, I got a brand." And I'm
And
like,
that's
"What?"
exactly what
And I was like, "I
that's
got clothing
exactly when
line."
it
I
was.
was like, "All right, I'll
That's the
support."
funny thing, and that's why we reconnected exactly when we did. So between us meeting, getting to know each other initially, and then reconnecting, and then getting to really know each other more,
Yeah.
so um, there was obviously a gap of about 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Now, what we became were super seniors, basically,
Yeah.
for different reasons. Mine was a mental health issue.
Mhm.
I don't know yours in the moment,
Yeah.
but mine was definitely a mental health issue.
Oh, mine was, I had to fucking do another year because I switched majors. I found a major that I really wanted to do, and it was like, "Yo, you got to invest another year and a half."
I
And I
respect
was
that.
like,
And they told me the same exact
"Damn."
reason, but my reason was um, my freshman year was amazing. It was great. It was normal, and I was normal. My the beginning of my sophomore year was you know,
Yeah.
in my mind was an elevation. And what I didn't realize was that it was the beginning of my deterioration. So
Mhm.
when you re-met me, basically was on the cusp of me trying to become myself again, the person that you initially met. I
Mm.
felt like I had truly lost myself in depression, in anxiety, in stress, in physical health as well. I
Mhm.
developed kidney stones throughout those
Yeah.
throughout that time. So when you met me again, it was kind of like this individual who had been broken, both by allowing myself to be broken mentally and then trying to put the pieces back together.
Yeah.
Like when I started the company, I had gone through one of the most painful situations I could have gone through psychologically at the moment, and the decision I made was to um, create something for myself in my future, a voice for myself, and a way of me being able to express myself globally, and not being controlled by anyone, not necessarily having to be the person that's like, oh, I'm working for someone else and this is their vision. I'm great at that. You know what I mean? I'm a great team player and a great asset, but I knew that I needed my own voice, and I was
Mm.
inspired and triggered by a multitude of things. And when you met me, I was still kind of like this like timid individual, like
Yeah.
as handsome as people can find me and as loud as I can look and dress. Like I've always been like this very timid, like shy
Yeah.
person. And that's weird and ironic because then you ask people if they know me, and there's like probably like 10,000 people in the city of, you
Yeah.
know, like in the
Yeah. Yeah.
Bronx, in Buffalo, in Miami, wherever you
Yeah.
are. You could be
Well, it
California.
kind of like, you know, thinking about it now, it seems like the way you started dressing was a symbolism to what you wanted to feel and what you wanted to be, where loud, confident, but not with an ego. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Precisely.
very,
Yeah.
very sure, still searching, still growing, being
Yeah.
open. And
And a part of that was almost like a security blanket.
right,
We as
right,
we as people wear costumes every day,
right.
and that way of dressing for a long time became my costume. And then
Yeah.
when I
But
became
that was a
depressed,
costume that you wanted to eventually be, not just not.
well,
You didn't want that costume just to be a costume. You wanted to be
that
like, you
that's what
wanted
I
to
didn't
now. Yeah,
understand.
you wanted to be as one. Like,
Absolutely, and that's what I didn't understand, and that's why I mean, like when right before you met me, and when I was in the in my most broken point, I didn't care how I dressed. Everything I wore was wrinkled. I
yeah,
basically wore not dirty clothes, but it looked like off gray black jeans. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like it wasn't old clothes. I have too many clothes in my life, and I've always
yeah,
had it. And it's always just like I just didn't care to put an effort into the thought of this is the
mm,
t-shirt I'm gonna wear as opposed to that t-shirt.
What
You know
helped
what I
you?
mean?
What helped you get out of that? And then I want to talk about the meaning of your brand. But what helped
Absolutely.
you? What helped you get out of that? What was the final straw? Like, you know what? I've been here for a while. It's draining. I don't like being this
In
anymore. I
terms
need
of
to
the
start.
creation of the brand,
No, your depression, your anxiety, because it goes one on one with the fashion as well. Because now, you ever heard like the mood rings? I feel like your
yes,
fashion was like
absolutely.
almost like a mood ring too, where it changed to how
No,
you felt.
yes,
And
absolutely. Yeah, I
I
agree.
want to know what snapped you out of that depression to like, let me start making steps out of this now. Because a lot of artists, we tend, and creatives, not only artists,
Yeah.
we tend to be there, and sometimes we've been there long, and but there's always a rocky moment where something happens and we start punching our way out of it, and crawling our way out of it. So what was that moment for you? What helped you to get out of that?
Okay. Um, for me, there truly the moment was when I was 29 years old,
Mm,
and I said I can't be 30 and continue into my 30s the way that I lived in my 20s.
mm,
And what I did was somewhere around like my 28th, I think, birthday, or between 28 and 29, I made myself this promise that I was going to do everything in my power to return, like I say, back to the old me. Now, when I say that, it sounds weird because I just said that I did it at 29 and
mm,
I'm currently 32.
mm.
So it's like, it sounds crazy, right? But
Yeah.
it's not. The thing is that when I started the brand, I was still in the midst of my deepest depression. The brand, like you say, was me surrounding myself in this vibrancy, in this brain, in this pink. Um, and that's, like you say, that's the energy I wanted to exude,
Yeah.
for myself and for my future. And not knowing it, not realizing it, that's what I did, and that's why the brand in itself was received the way that it was. That no matter who saw it, even if they saw me, whether they knew me or not, excuse me, but especially if they did know me, they always gravitated towards it, and they always supported me.
Yeah.
And it's that type of situation where people be like, oh, people you don't know support you more than your friends. No,
Yeah.
like it always depends on your energy and the type of energy you've been giving out and feeling within yourself. And at that moment, um, the friends that I had and just everybody that was around me had basically been around me for years at a
Mm,
time. Um, and they truly, truly supported me. They saw me at my lows and they saw me rising up and said, this is something that we want to get behind. And I've always appreciated that. Truly, truly appreciated that. Like, I couldn't tell you how many pieces of clothing I've sold. You know what I mean? Like, I've never counted truly. Like,
yeah.
I've made one offs. I've made, you know, 50 or 100 of one t-shirt, like at the same time, all
Yeah.
different types of size one. But
So what is universal mindfuck? Because if I still remember, uh, I remember we did an interview. This is like the full circle, uh,
yes,
of when we did it in college. I was like, yo, man, I was with my boys, and we was into the whole filming thing. I was like, yo,
yeah.
he has a great story. Like, I wanted to help out. I was like, we got to get this out there more. And what I got from it was just being thinking outside of the box, being different. But I know that's just me downplaying it to a little thing, but the way you explain it, go deep into it, it's like an either a bigger meaning.
Yeah.
So how did it, first of all, how did it come to you? And then what was the meaning behind it?
So Universal Mindfuck is actually, let's call it my first brand. That was my first baby. Um, Universal Mindfuck was created, um, to be 100% honest, and I'm only going to be honest because someone in this world might be experiencing it and may be needing to hear this type of word to be able to move themselves in a positive energy. But in 2010, I was in a situation where I had gotten a girl pregnant. And it wasn't a bad or sad situation, in my opinion, but I was in some very bad depression, in a very bad state of depression. And she let me know that she couldn't have a child with a person that was in the condition and state that I was in mentally and
Right.
physically. Um, and and that was my catalyst to
Yeah.
truly begin my brand. I had
Mm.
created the name Universal Mindfuck 2 years prior to that, at least, with a friend of mine named Francis. We were sitting at a kitchen table in his dorm room, and we were just trying to think about what's going to happen after college. He was about to graduate because he's a year older than me. So when I created the name, you know, I wasn't depressed. I just had this good idea. And I had that great idea for 2 years and I didn't do anything. I spoke to friends, very close friends. And I had one or two people like, hey, let me try and draw something for you. Just an idea of your visual, of what I visualize when you say Universal Mindfuck. And I was like, hey, cool, thank you. I'm going to use this as a logo. Never did it. Never truly moved forward with any plans. And then when this moment happened that as deep as a depression as I was in, I could have lost my mind, having lost my child at that time. And what I did was I said, for myself at least, I'm going to create something, like I said, where it's going to be something of a legacy aspect, something that's going to give me a voice and something that I can do and take globally and be able to impact people. At the time, like you say, like we spoke about, I was heavily into fashion, and a lot of the fashion was dark it went from bright graphic tees to darker imagery than what I have on. You know what I mean? And I kind of subconsciously have this shirt on kind of purpose because it's a mixture of what could be seen as good and evil, a yin and yang aspect, and that that evil is also what inspired me to really truly start making clothes, because I couldn't put on my body something that was representative of evil. And looking back, I wore t-shirts with naked women, or I even have a t-shirt that I used to love that was like Britney Spears breaking down mentally. And when I think about it, it's like, fuck, I had a t-shirt of somebody's toughest moment in life, and I'm rocking and I'm wearing this, walking around with it, so, like, just not noticing it. And it made me, and it truly inspired me to want to know what I'm portraying, the message I'm giving to others, even if it's not a message that I necessarily am creating, and made me want to create my own. And so that's really what made me want to create Universal Mindfuck in 2011, I believe.
And then you made other brands after that?
Yeah, so
damn.
Universal Mindfuck.
I've been stuck on I thought everything you create was Mindfuck.
That's the thing, that people have seen me kind of have these waves of creation where
just because, like, I feel like Mindfuck is many different layers, right? So like, just because you're not using Mindfuck in the shirt, I'll see something that's mind fucking me still, that I'm like, oh, I see like the different things that, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's a trend. It may not use the name, but it's a foundation of like, what do you see?
Yeah. So with my mind, at least, my mind is universally mind fucked. Or was universally mind fucked, excuse me. I'm, in my mind, trying to be a universal thinker in my everyday action. So whether it's seeing somebody and holding the door, whether it's seeing somebody and needing to help them down a flight of stairs, crossing the street, buying somebody a water, the smallest true, like, generous acts of generosity can like change somebody's entire day. Like giving somebody a compliment, like, hey, I like that t-shirt, I like your jacket, and having it be genuine. You know what I mean? Like, those type of things. I kind of lost my train of thought. That's what happens.
Well, no.
What was the question?
You still on the path. What inspired the other brands? Because I was only on Mindfuck.
Sorry. Got you. So, like I was saying before, I lost my train of thought. With me being kind of like the face of this brand, even if you didn't see the face behind the brand, like the brand has always truly been like my spirit, my energy, in the sense of like conceptually, like creative direction, excuse me. So I did, or I've continued to do UMF. I'm still selling UMF. But basically what happened was I did UMF 2011, I finished school that semester. 2012, 2013, I was still living in Buffalo with this brand, selling it on the internet. Through a chain of events, I moved back to New York City, and I continue selling UMF. So, 3, 4, 5 years into the brand now. Now, as a human, as a person, as an entrepreneur, I'm tired. I'm mentally drained, and like I've been selling myself for 5 years in my product, and I've sold now basically thousands of t-shirts and sweaters and hoodies and excuse me, sweaters and hoodies, but book bags and whatever the case is, whatever I made. But I kind of got sick of selling myself. So regardless if I was able to sustain a living, if I needed a part-time job, whatever the case is, mentally I couldn't keep creating. I came to a point where I had ended the working relationship with my artist business partner, and I just didn't know kind of what to do. So what I did do was I tried to, like I say, what could be said is I tried to teach myself the manufacturing process. So in saying that, I had basically spent all my money, all the money I've made from UMF for the last 5 years. And I started thinking differently in the sense of how can I create product without having to hold product? And today it's called drop shipping. In those days, drop shipping wasn't necessarily commercially available. And I'm talking about 7 years ago only. So 6 years ago. So what I did was I started looking at other brands. There was this brand that used to sell hats for $2 or $3, and I would question myself, how does he sell a hat for $2 or $3? So he buys his blank for 50 cents, less than $1. He creates his own logo through a vinyl process or what's called a heat transfer process, and then he has a heat transfer a heat press machine, which is just a large iron. And I figured this out on my own by just studying his product. I ordered his hats, and having done screen printing on my own t-shirt, like not myself doing screen printing, but UMF has always been a screen printed brand. It's never been what's in the industry called DTG or heat transfers. It's always been a screen printed brand. So from day one, people always looked at my brand to an extent like a brand because it felt like a brand in the quality of the product. But I wanted to teach myself now the quality of how to create quality. So what I figured out was how to make a hat for, $5 basically, as opposed to paying an embroidery store $12. And the reason I did that was I bought my own blanks, I bought my own heat press, and I would buy my own patches from China.
Smart.
And so when I was able to do that, I couldn't sell a hat for $30. Why? Because my energy was drained mentally and psychologically, physically. So that's when I reconnected with a friend of mine through the law of attraction. And basically he told me, hey, I want to help you. I see exactly what you're doing, and what you're doing is crazy to me because it's unfounded, basically, like unseen. And I want to help you take this on to a larger platform. And he didn't mean he didn't mean helping me obtain distribution, obtain money. He didn't say that in terms of me obtaining manufacturing. What he helped me to see was I was already my own manufacturer. I was already my own distributor. I was already my own bank in terms of my own funding. So he said, I'm just going to teach you this, couple little things.
Yeah.
And when he did that, I created my second brand, which was Fee New York. So Fein is spelled F-E-I-N. There's a little accent somewhere. And basically what it means is to own in Irish. And so Fee New York became second brand and our brand with my partner. And that brand was basically just hats and patches. You know what I mean? Like if you look back on social media for me, you'll see it. And with that product, I went from not being able to sell a hat for $30 to people knocking my door down and my website down to pay me $44. And what he taught me was people will buy and pay you what you tell them to. And it's not about being disrespectful about it. It's about being as humble and respectful about it, but just knowing kind of your value and your worth.
Yeah.
This is a gentleman who was selling T-shirts for $200.
Damn.
And he's a Spanish person. You know what I mean? Like, and this is the same dude who started when I left to college selling his T-shirts out of his trunk.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit, this is the dude I'm going to listen to at this moment.
Yeah.
And I was able to take my hats and that brand, Fee New York, and put that, in 40 to 45 stores within 8 months.
Wow.
And that was a lot of legwork. That was us driving, around the city, around the state, to Connecticut, to New Jersey.
That, that's
Appreciate
inspiring,
you. Clap
bro,
to him as well.
Clap to him too, man. That's inspiring because, man, it always goes down to, like, I always love hearing these stories, especially when I know the people around, because when you're an artist or you're creative, you relate to it more because you know of all the obstacles you have to do as a creative, not only as creating your product, but how you're gonna get it out there. Like how you're everything. You're the producer, you're the director,
and I saw that in you back in the day.
And like people gave me guidance. I'm not gonna say they didn't.
Exactly.
But from the beginning, I figured a lot of the stuff out because I had to go find out these answers.
That's the thing.
And it just took me of just questioning it and Googling it. And then if I knew someone that was doing it, I asked them the question.
You weren't afraid to.
Right.
And you taught me that. Like I say before, I was very timid and shy. And one of the things I remember you telling me was basically, sorry, I don't know if I froze for a second. I had to reject the call. But basically, you taught me to not be afraid, to not be overbearing, but to not be afraid. Especially, I remember you telling me, you have a business card? Yeah, I do. Go give it to that person. Or I don't know that person. Don't be afraid. Go give it to them. And they're going to understand what you're doing and what you're selling them. And I'm like, okay. And
I said that? Damn, I was like,
yes, you did. Yes, you did, bro.
I know I'm like that. I'm like that with people, but I don't remember.
You told me that in the union right after the interview that we did. And it was that type of small thing where I've carried that forever to the point where I walk into a clothing store to sell my product when I do. And it's that fearless mentality of, with all due respect, sir, this is the product that I carry. And look at them.
What's the worst that's going to happen? They say no, or they throw it out, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you never know.
Yeah, precisely. So at the same instant of creating,
it's like, hold on. It's like, what's the worst that can happen? They say no, but you will never know. Like, it's that double entendre of the no. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you do it, you allow yourself. Like, and like, sorry to like interrupt,
no.
It's like, I learned that quickly with myself. Like, I remember we had to do that show in school. It was like, we was doing sketches or whatever.
Hilarious.
And like, and these people
watch those skits to this day, bro.
Thank you. And everybody in the group, was like, oh man, like, we got to get people, and I'm like, they're not going to just show up at the door. Like, you got to go after these people, like, and tell them, like, we have a funny show and like, we guarantee you're going to laugh at it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
And I believed in the product because we was all working and busting our ass. And like, I was like, the beginning stages, like, a sold out show is not guaranteed. You have to go get that sold out show.
Yeah.
And like
the young, other, bro.
And my friends was like, well, I don't know that much people. Well, who do you know? I only know 3. So bring them 3. I'll bring 5.
Bring and ask those 3 to bring 1 or 2.
Yes.
And that's it.
That's it.
Yep. It's crazy, but we're taught as humans to be fearful.
Yeah.
To fear the unknown, to fear uncertainty. And I've always tried to live my life, as fearlessly as I can to an extent. And
at the end of the day, what
helped.
What? Thank you, man. No lie, man. It's all love. I mean, you helped me too from the beginning without you even knowing, and you even just supporting my shows means a lot. I never took that like for granted. Whenever someone took time out of their day to come to see my show, no matter if they like, let's say they appreciate my work and they want to go, like they're going to support, like no matter what. I had people like, yo, whenever you do a show, you let me know I'm there. At the end of the day, I don't take that for granted. Like, because you still got to put your card in. You still got to do a commute. No matter how much you love me, you still got to do all those things to go there and sit in the seat and watch me for an hour and a half. And like, to me, that means like so much to me. And I never forget that. So I always think about, like, I always wear my heart on sleeve. I always think about the people too. Like, I hope they enjoy. Like, how can I give back to them, not only with the show, but maybe they'll get something out of this too. So, like, I know it, like, even learning from my spiritual teacher and,
Mm-hmm.
creating my shows, like, I learned so much, and my shows give so much back to me. What is your brand, and what is the creative process? What, when you look back on it, what did it give you?
Oh my God, it gave me my freedom.
Mm,
Um, I don't I don't need to work for anybody that, when I don't if I don't want to. And I say that humbly. I currently have a part-time job because, with this pandemic, I technically don't even want to be just in my house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But
right.
I don't need to work for somebody
Mm,
else in that sense. I know how to create and live my passion, and through the grace of God, be blessed in a financial way by that.
yeah.
Um, I get people all the time who ask me, as a simple of a graphic designer as I am. People ask me for logos. People ask me to build websites.
Mm,
People ask me to manufacture for them all the time. So I'm blessed to have a small but strong group of people that have always supported me through the last 10 years of being able to learn and grow and create.
yeah. What was some advice that you would give? Because to me, man, like, your story is so inspiring in the sense of, like, you touched on a lot of stuff that, that you shared, that, you was going through stuff and
Yeah,
you
a
had to
lot.
go. Yeah, you was going through a lot. I know you didn't share the brunt of it, but you just shared, like, I was going through shit. And
Yeah,
then,
bro.
like, and then coming out of it and then creating something. And then, like you said, it wasn't until 29, but you're 32. So, like, there's a big gap there of you, like, going through shit. Like, what do you want to share to other people that may have an idea, and, or you, if you see someone, and if you see someone that resembles you in a sense of, like, wow, I know where they at. What knowledge or wisdom would you share to them?
That's a tough question, bro. Like, um, I don't even know.
Mm,
Like, my truest answer is I wouldn't know what to tell them because, um, I, like, our whole conversation this entire time, people may think I just ramble and just talk, but that's really how I speak.
yeah.
And when I speak to individuals, I really truly connect with most people. As much of a stranger as somebody can be, I try to connect with them. So I always try to connect with the individual and see what exactly are you having a tough day because of a relationship.
Mm,
Is it your parent? I just lost somebody a couple days ago. So a lot of people walking around just crying in the street, and you don't
yeah.
know that they just lost a family member. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So um,
I think you
in a
hit it
jet,
right on the nose. Without you even saying it, like, you
yeah,
hit it, like, just by talking.
yeah,
You you made you made you made the answer, where connecting to people, like,
yeah,
just be honest with yourself. Like, if you have someone you can
yeah.
talk to, like,
Oh,
just
I got
just
one. I
just
got
let it
one for
out.
sure. Self love is the truest and strongest thing in this world. When you love self, there's nothing that cannot love you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And that's something that I learned recently. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah,
not yesterday, but recently.
yeah.
And
It's a process, bro.
exactly,
Yeah.
it's definitely a process. Accepting of self, accepting of one's past and
Mhm.
one's issues, triumphs, failures, and know that I always realize my biggest failures are my biggest triumphs because I
Mhm.
know exactly what not to do in those situations. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, I know 30 ways not to, I know 30 ways to succeed now in those type of situations,
Yeah.
whatever they may be. So always know that the difficult situations are actually things to make you the strongest person
Mhm.
possible. And self-love is the most important thing.
What helps you get out of, like, creative funks? Like, where, like, I know you mentioned a couple times that, like, that you drained yourself, that you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
like, so what are some things that you did to that you could recognize now to be like, maybe I need a break. Maybe I won't
Oh
touch
yeah.
anything for like a month and a half and just let it come to me. Like, what
Yes.
what are some things that help you through those creative funks?
So with me, like I say, I'm not a traditional graphic artist because I didn't go to school for that, unfortunately. I'm a visual, and I'll call it a spiritual artist. Like, my aura is art, in my opinion. And Um, I lost my train of thought again. What was the question?
The question is, what do you do to get out of those funks?
Thank you. I apologize.
Nah, it's fine, bro.
What I do honestly
You
is
should
just
smoke
try.
some weed that helps with memory. They have that shit because I don't smoke weed, but do they have that?
Nah, what helps with memory for me is just telling myself I have a good memory.
Oh, that's great.
Honestly, I tell myself I have a good memory. I remember things, and my girl is like creeped out by me with the shit that I'll be saying sometimes.
Well,
But anyways,
you have a great memory, and you were saying that.
thank you.
And you were
I was
saying what helps you during these creative funks.
yes. So, truly and honestly, it's like you say, and like most artists feel, is being able to take that time off and not pressuring yourself to create. When you can create and you can create, you know how precious that creation is, and therefore you don't rush creation.
Yeah.
You let yourself be inspired to create. And like you say, I have jackets that I love to make for myself, and there's pieces that I put, one embroidery, two embroideries on. There's pieces that I've got, full pieces, and it's basically, it could be done in one day or it could have been done in a year, and you wouldn't know the difference because it's just a piece that I'm wearing at the end of the day. But I try to mentally always remain positive, refocus myself whenever needed, meditate whenever possible. Stretch, do yoga. All those things will help your mind stay aligned, and and for the most part, those things, honestly.
Yeah. Nice. So we're gonna move forward to our last segment, and it's called rapid fire. So it's 4 questions, and it's whatever comes to mind. And if you forget
Copy.
anything, because you have a great memory, let me know.
No, I got a great
repeat
memory.
it. And so the first question for that is, what has been your biggest disappointment?
The biggest disappointment is not staying consistent.
Nice. Second one is, what single thing would improve the quality of your life? Money's not an option in this one.
Being able to accept things earlier on.
What do you consider your greatest achievement?
Trying and succeeding in being myself.
What is the most important lesson life has taught you?
That is beautiful, that it's eternal and goes on forever, regardless of whether or not the body does.